Hello friends, this is Adam with Movie Guy 365. In today's video, I'm going to go over what I feel are the most disappointing 4K disc releases of 2024. There are a lot of 4K releases that come out in any given year, and I feel that the vast majority of them have improved picture. In many cases, audio is also improved with Dolby Atmos upgrades. And then, of course, you get bonus materials, extras, or maybe even the packaging is better than it has been in recent years. And of course, with that, there's also the occasional disappointment. I mean, you can look at any title that you may have personally been looking forward to, and when it comes out on 4K, it just doesn't measure up for whatever reason. Whether it is the aforementioned picture, audio, or maybe they eliminated all the bonus materials, or even the packaging might stink. So for this video, I'm going to list my personal disappointments that came out on 4K in 2024. This will be a very subjective list. What I talk about, you may actually love and think it's a great 4K, and that's perfectly fine. And that's why I also encourage you to put in the comments section below what your personal 4K disappointments were for this past year. So for my first pick, it is a fairly recent release, and I have not even done a review for it yet on the channel. I've been so backlogged, but I will be getting to it eventually. But I was a little disappointed, and I've got to say, Shout Factory's release of Far and Away from director Ron Howard was ultimately just didn't quite live up to standards. Now, when a movie comes out on 4K, sometimes they're able to get it directly from the original camera negative or digital source. And I'm always a little weary when something is just a 4K transfer from the inner positive. That to me is also, that sometimes can be a little red flag. Sometimes it works out really well, but I feel that Far and Away just didn't quite live up to standards. And I just feel that the overall condition of the source is really my biggest problem. It's very inconsistent. Sometimes some scenes look amazing. They look really sharp. They look good. And others, you get really blurry image, whether it's blurry grain or just, I don't know, it just doesn't quite look good. And it's very inconsistent. And I mean, you can understand that to a degree when you're watching a film and maybe one or two scenes just doesn't look as good as it should. And then the rest of it looks amazing. In this case, I feel it kind of wavers back and forth quite a bit. And also, especially when the film gets to the Oklahoma scenes, there were a lot of imperfections and blemishes that I noticed. And it was just something that maybe a full restoration could have addressed and probably would have. But for whatever reason, and they just didn't do so. I mean, it wasn't a big box office hit, so I can understand it to a degree. They didn't want to put the money forth. But I feel that it could have done a little bit better when it comes to the overall presentation. The Atmos, though, I felt was really good. It was a nice sounding disc. That I'm always appreciative of an Atmos upgrade, but really, just the picture didn't quite live up to it for me personally. Some people may love it, and that's great, but for me, Far and Away was a bit of a disappointment. I just recently reviewed this one on the channel. If you want to hear my thoughts, go ahead and check that one out. But for me, one of the big 4K disappointments of 2024 was the 4K release of Terrifier 3. Now, the big reason I put this on the list is because it does not have any HDR Dolby Vision. Now, before you write in the comments, I have stated in many times in the past that that doesn't necessarily mean a 4K is going to be bad. Why it is on this list, and it's a sticking point for me in particular, is because other territories such as the UK, it has been confirmed the Australian release does in fact support HDR and Dolby Vision for the movie. So it's kind of an odd decision that international markets would have it, but us here in the States do not. That to me is a big omission, and I would love to hear the reasoning behind that other than, oh, it was a cost measure kind of thing. That to me is just, I don't necessarily really get behind something like that. But I have in the past, when it comes to a lack of an HDR on a particular 4K, I've been very objective about it. And I feel that, if one doesn't have it, then it's okay for X, Y, and Z kind of a reason. But really, you're releasing it in international territories, but nothing here. I know a lot of people who are fans of the film really have a problem with it. I think it was a weird decision. Once again, probably way above my pay grade, but I would just love to hear the understanding about it. So that is why Terrifier 3 is on my list here. This next one on the disappointment list is another case of lack of HDR Dolby Vision. And it's an interesting one because it's almost I don't know why this was even released. Cowboys and Aliens from Kino Lorber definitely made my disappointment list of 2024. I just don't understand the thought process. Now, I believe this was originally advertised with HDR Dolby Vision. It even literally has it on the packaging, but it's nowhere to be found. And it also is just one of those, you're not really getting huge improvements or any improvements, really, to be frank. And it kind of, I don't know, it just seems like an odd decision all around. Now, there isn't some international copy out there that does have it yet. I could see that changing down the line, but I don't know why this was even released. And now, if you want to go ahead and make the argument for the 4K upgrade, it's an upscale. So you're really not getting improvements when it comes to texture or detail. So you can rule that one out. But hey, okay, what about a special version with the extended cuts on 4K? Surely that's a thing, right? No, it's the theatrical cut on the quote unquote 4K, and the extended cut is on the Blu-ray included. So this was an odd choice to release at all. It almost seemed like just kind of like a horizontal shifting kind of release. It really didn't benefit from the Blu-ray too much. I don't know. It was just very disappointing. I just don't like it really at the end of the day. So Cowboys and Aliens on 4K from Kino Lorber was definitely a disappointment. This next disappointment can easily be solvable with a replacement program, and it's really on this list only because of a glitch in the audio. Sony's 4K release of the 1994 version of Little Women. Now, for those that are unfamiliar, basically the 5.1 track included, there's no Dolby Atmos upgrade for it. The front channels are completely silent when it comes to audio. There's no audio that comes out. But meanwhile, the rear speakers are way overhyped. There's also some audio bleed back there from the dialogue, and it's a very unnerving, quite frankly, to be honest, experience listening to it. Now, thankfully, the 2.0 audio track on this, or 2.0, is better. It is actually fine. There's no problems whatsoever. And if you want to watch it that way, you're golden. But as of the recording of this particular video, Sony has not addressed any kind of replacement program or something. So maybe going into the new year, this will be a thing, and this can be, retroactively omitted from this list. But because if you know me, I'm a huge fan of Sony 4K releases. I think they're one of the best major studios that handles their content, putting it out on 4K. Picture is awesome. Picture is fine. Grain looks great. I think it looks fine. It looks good. It's just the audio. You can't really get past that 5.1. Something went wrong in the QC process, but I don't know. Maybe this will get addressed at some point. But for me, Little Women 1994 on 4K, it's a definite disappointment. This next one is probably going to be a little controversial, and I'm sure I'm going to get a lot of pushback in the comments, but it's also something I actually did mention in my 4K review, and it's just a little thing, but it can also be big, especially if you're somebody that invests in a good home theater and you really like some good home theater audio. Twisters on 4K is really, to me, a little bit of a disappointment. Now, let me just start by saying I think the picture is fine. It looks good. The HDR on that is good. It's really, it gives you a nice visual lushness to it. I think it's fine. And the audio on paper is good. You do get some entertaining audio when it comes to the tornado activity. It's pretty dynamic. And it does actually have a good foundation. But why I'm putting this on the list is if you even measure this up to the film it's sort of sequel rebooting on, Twister, the tornado, the oomph, the power, the rumble is just kind of missing. And that is a weird thing. Now, I'm going to be like fair. I saw this in IMAX, and my IMAX theater is pretty good. And I felt even then it was a little underwhelming. Like you didn't feel it. You're supposed to feel the tornadoes, the roar of the twisters, and it was just dialed down. I don't know why. I know that had to have been a choice in making the film, because if my IMAX theater was a little underwhelming, I was thinking, okay, maybe they're having an off day. When I get it home, it'll sound great, and it does sound okay, but it could sound so much better. I'm telling you, put in the biggest tornado scene in this film, and then A and B it with the original Twister on any tornado scene, you're getting a huge difference. And that should not be the case. There's over a 20-year difference between the two films. So I don't know. For me, it was a disappointment. I still like the disc. I think it's fine, but it could have been so much better. And for the final 4K disc, I was most disappointed with in 2024. I think a lot of people are going to agree with this one, and you probably can guess what it is. James Cameron's True Lies on 4K really, at the end of the day, was a big disappointment. Now, here's the thing. I feel the Dolby Atmos on this one is really good. It's a very nice upgrade. I have no complaints whatsoever about it. Even the extras, I feel that some were ported over. I think there were some additional new ones on here. I think the extras were good. Even the packaging, I felt, was nice. It was a nice, cover and everything. Would have liked a steelbook, but maybe down the line, that kind of thing. But really, the picture, I don't know. I was just kind of disappointed, and I think a lot of people feel the same. It was just whether it was AI tools that smoothed out the faces, everything just looked a little too waxy on this one. Way too smooth. Grain was almost all but eliminated. And just visually, it looked very artificial. I know James Cameron came out and sort of did a little attack on us YouTubers and people that were complaining a little bit about the grain, but really you can't say that this is a natural looking picture in any way, shape, or form. I felt The Abyss, which made one of my best lists in a video previously, if you want to check that one out, was a huge improvement. Aliens has divisive opinions. I know a lot of people will probably put that in the comments for this video, but really, out of the three that came out from Cameron this past year, True Lies was just not a good looking picture. I'm appreciative in the sense that we do have a 4K of it, but I think it could have been handled so much better. I just don't really like how it ultimately looks. We've seen studios put classic films or older films, even films from that time period, out on 4K, and they look significantly better. True Lies, not so much. So yeah, I'm sure a lot of people are going to agree with this one, but I wasn't happy with the results ultimately. But I don't see this going to be addressed anytime soon. I don't think we're going to get a new version like in any short term kind of thing, but I don't know. But yeah, True Lies is probably my biggest disappointing disc of 2024. So those were the most disappointing 4K discs that I personally looked into this past year. But I think ultimately we got a lot more positive than negative. And I think it just comes with, it's par for the course that we're going to be disappointed with a few things. But for me, these were the ones that really stood out. But now it's your turn in the comment section below. What were your biggest 4K disappointments that came out this past year? Let's talk about it. In the meantime, please like, subscribe, hit that bell notification. So until next time, this is Adam with Movie Guy 365. I will see you at the movies.